How's you going, boys? Mike here. Welcome back to Grampie's workshop. And I'm back out in the shop again today. So I'm nice. Glad you're here because I want to show you my Troy-Bilt Tiller. It's a rear tine 1980 vintage Troy-Bilt Tiller. This one was actually made in Troy, New York, not like the Troy-Bilt equipment that's out there today. This was actually made in Troy, New York. Good, beefy, heavy-duty machine. It's been around since 1980, like I say, so there's a lot of gardening done with this tiller, and it has been kind of inactive in the last number of years. So let's go have a look at it and see what kind of work it's going to need to get put back into tip-top shape. So there she is, the Troy-Bilt Tiller. This model tiller, it was a 6 horsepower horse model with removable rear tines, and this was the first or second year that they had the removable rear tines. I bought this tiller, I think it was in 1980, and it tilled big gardens for, well, I'm going to say 15 years, every year for 15 years. And then we kind of downsized the garden a little bit smaller. And then we ended up coming out here to the lake, and I'm telling you, I put this tiller through its paces here at the lake because we were busting sod here and trying to make lawns and trying to make gardens. And she was a beast. I ended up changing the original motor. The original motor was a 6 horsepower Tecumseh, and the motor just died after a while. We had it bored out, but still the compression was terrible and it just wouldn't idle, wouldn't work right. So I ended up getting, that's only I think a 5 horsepower motor, well 208cc, whatever that is. But the horsepower now of course is based on the flywheel ratings of it. But this is less than a 6 horsepower motor that's on it now, or engine. And it does fine. It runs the tiller no problem whatsoever. It's a rear tine tiller, and just wait till I tip it up here. Anybody who is familiar with Troy-Bilt tillers, they know that they were, I think, a pioneer of rear tine tillers. And these tines are not in bad shape, but they're starting to get a little pointed on the end. But I think that's about the 4th set of tines we had on this tiller. And I see this tine right here, just looking at it quick, is bent. But anyway, yeah, when I was tilling gardens out here at the lake, we got nothing but rock out here with a little bit of soil between the rocks. So this poor old tiller had a rough life tilling out here. But yeah, I painted the body parts on it different times with just red paint. One of the things about the rear tine tiller that I liked was when you till the garden, especially with this hood and the flap on the back, when you look behind you after you went down the garden and tilled it, you look back, it was nice and smooth and spread out. It was just a beautiful looking sight when you were finished tilling with it. So yeah, nice. Another feature about these tillers that I liked was this handlebar right here. The handlebars, they were adjustable. Well, they not were, they still are. This lever here, if you loosen that, you can adjust the bars higher or lower. And that comes in handy because as the tiller was tilling the garden, the rear end would sit right down into the ground as it tilled down. So it was nothing for this bottom part of the hood to be buried in the ground, like the ground up to about here as it was tilling. So when that happens, of course, the handles lowered down. So it was nice to be able to adjust the handles. They may seem high right now, like if you look at this with me here, the handles are up to my chest, but when I was tilling, they'd be here at my waist, so that was good. Also, when you till with the Troy-Bilt, because it leaves such a nice spread of earth behind you, you didn't like to walk in that row, so you can loosen this handle right here, right, and then you can swing the bars around to either side. So you could set these bars, like offset them to the right or offset them to the left, so that you wouldn't walk on your freshly tilled garden. So that was a nice feature of them. So yeah, you could move the handlebars either to the right, you could offset them to the right or to the left, but I used to leave them set up pretty straight because I would stand off to the side of the tiller as I was tilling and walk on the untilled part of the garden. So yeah, another feature of this tiller, this drive mechanism here, this the clutch and the drive, and there was I guess 4 speeds in total. There's 2 different speeds on this drive pulley arrangement, And you also had a transmission on it with this lever here, which you could shift 2 different speeds. So there was an ultra slow, and then medium and super medium. It didn't go very fast, but it went fast enough when you're trying to walk behind it and catch up to it. This big lever in the middle, this one here, this was the clutch. And the way the clutch works is as you push down on that, it raised the engine block assembly and it tightened the drive belts. And when you pull that down, there was a locking mechanism here that would lock it in the down position. And then when you want to stop, you would just bump it. You would just bump the grip. And if everything was lubricated good, that would bounce out of there no problem. I remember though tilling different times when I was having problems with that, either because the lubrication was bad or it was misadjusted, but I'd get to the end of the garden and I'd be hitting the lever and I couldn't get it to stop, and I'd go halfway across the yard before I finally got it out of gear. That was, well, it was funny, but it wasn't funny at the time. And it can also go reverse, and the way you make it go reverse is, if you look in here, this little wheel, it's hard to see in the dark, but that's a rubber coated wheel right here, and that'll go down and press on this flywheel. If you push this lever forward, this clutch lever, if you push that forward, it lowers the engine a little bit so that that rubber coated wheel comes in contact with the flywheel, the transmission, the drive wheel, and that makes the tiller go reverse. So yeah, pretty neat. And the tines, like I was saying, the tines are removable. Although I must say I didn't remove them very often. But there's, hard to see here because everything's so dirty, but right there's a nut, and there's a nut on the other side, and you loosen those and the tines can pull right off the tractor, so you could add other attachments back there. Like I think some of the attachments they sold was a plow blade, but you know, to use the actual output of the transmission to run a plow blade, well, it didn't have to do anything because it just dragged the plow blade. So another feature that was on this vintage of tractor, which was just new around the time I was buying this tractor back in the 80s, 1980s, this tractor I'm calling it, because I guess it kind of was referred to as a tractor back then, but it's a tiller. But anyway, it was this, the PTO could be engaged or disengaged. It's engaged in this position, and there it's disengaged. So we would disengage it when you were transporting the tiller, and when you're transporting the tiller, just wait till I tip it up again, you would take this lever here and put it in the maximum down position, which is where it is now, because that lowered this wear rod here, and what that determined was how far down into the ground the tiller would sink when it was operational. So when you were transporting it, you'd put it all the way down, but then when you were tilling, you would release this lever. You would release this lever, just pull it back towards you, and slide it up. And then of course the wear bar would then fold up out of the way and allow the tines to dig in and do their business. So yeah, you can engage and disengage. There, it's engaged now. So that was quite a little feature too, you know. Little ads like that. That's what made Troy-Bilt so popular. And the other thing that made Troy-Bilt so popular, if you notice as we're looking around, that's cast, that's cast, that's cast, that's cast, that's cast. The gearbox is cast. The gears themselves were made out of good steel, strong steel. The tines wear like iron. You know, it was not just a sheet metal machine formed into a shape of a tiller. These parts were actually cast out of good steel. So yeah, the good old Troy-Bilt. She's quite the machine. And like I say, in its day, it was a Cadillac. There's no two ways about it. I like it. Troy-Bilt Tiller. She's a machine and a half, I'll tell you. And I'm going to try and bring it back to life. So that's it, my 1980s vintage original Troy-Bilt Tiller. It's got some work to be done on it, that's for sure. Definitely have to fix this tire and go over the gearbox, change the belt, probably things like that. But other than that, I think we put a little gas in the engine. We could go out till the garden this afternoon. So if you ever get an opportunity to pick up an original Troy-Bilt Tiller, go for it, because man oh man, they last a lifetime. It's hard to beat them. So thanks for watching. Let me know, please, in the comments if you have had experience or even if you own a Troy-Bilt tiller and what you think of it, because I'd be interested to hear your comments on them too. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and I sure hope you're having a great week, and we'll talk to you.